This episode of Geni's Way is brought to you by Unique Marketer, where passionate marketing delivers powerful results. Hi, welcome to Geni's Way. In this episode, I sit down with Dr. Stefan Zavalin to uncover what separates those who achieve extraordinary results from those who simply wish for them. Stefan shares his 5-step framework for setting and achieving goals, how to truly understand your niche, and the importance of branding beyond just a logo. It's about the experience people have when they interact with you and your enterprise. We'll also explore why being genuine and relatable is key to connecting with your audience, and why taking action is the ultimate game changer. Ready? Let's get into it! I want to welcome you back to Geni's Way. We talk about marketing mindset and much more. I am so excited to bring today a very special and an interesting guest, Stefan Zavalin. He is the professional unicorn. Yay!
Yay! Crowd goes wild. Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, crowd goes wild. There's no doubt about that. We love jokes, so bring on your jokes and yours. Hold on to your chairs. Here we come. So I want to start with an interesting question. I always ponder, and my clients and friends been always asking me, well, Geni, why do you think some people achieve extraordinary results in their life and others just keep dreaming? So I thought it would be a great question for my friend Stefan.
It's a good question, and I think there are a lot of things that go into it. And I want to first pick apart the question a little bit so that we all think about the terminology the same. When you say people keep on dreaming, for example, is it the idea that they keep on wishing and hoping that a better life will come and that they're not taking action? Because then the question answers itself. It's the fact that they dream about these things, but they don't act upon those dreams. Another version of this that I love saying is knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power, because they're not actually using and pushing forward to that. The other part, of course, is I think we're sold a lot of times what our dreams should be or shouldn't be, and in terms of success. And so when you say extraordinary lives, they may be extraordinary to us, but if that's not what we're really looking to have, if we're not looking to build a billion-dollar company, if we're just actually looking to live in a small fishing village, there's that story, if some of you might have heard about I'll make a brief version of it. A fisherman in a remote little village, he's fishing, and then a business man comes and says, if you could, sell all of this and get a fleet of boats, and they could really amp up your production, and you could really make a lot more money. And he goes like, why would I want to do that? So then you could retire, and then you could do whatever you want. What do you want to do? And the fisherman goes, I just want to sit and fish. And so it comes back to this idea that he's always been living this thing that he wants to do, and other people tell us what success is. So to answer your full question of this idea of why do some people live these extraordinary lives as opposed to people dreaming about it, I think we have to figure out what are our actual dreams, and do we want to take action on them? And then, is the life we're going for extraordinary in some way other than what the main driver of society tells you it should be? Is money the only way to be extraordinary? Is just compassion? Is just the fact that you have an amazing family and a household and a couple of kids truly extraordinary? Because with the amount of divorce rates and all these other things and kids not talking to their families, those are all extraordinary things sometimes if you have a very amazing group of people. So when it comes down to it, my answer is 1, it's the desires, 2, it's the actions, and 3, it's really your perspective.
Let me unpack this real good. Those are awesome answers, because if we don't have a clarity of what that extraordinary life is for us, how will we know we ever achieved it? It's like and why is the society dictating us what is that extraordinary life? It's for us to decide. It's like you said, what if I want to live and somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and like in the cabin, and go fishing or hunting or hiking, and that's my extraordinary life. That's like you have to clarify your definitions of your life, of your journey. If you don't know what you're going for, how would you ever get there? That brings me to a very natural next questions. How do we set our goals? And do we really need goals to get to that, whatever that might be success for you in your life and business? What are your thoughts on goals and goal setting?
It's a great question. It's a great question following that. I'm going to retroactively go back and say, when we said dreams, for example, for some people, dreams, what's a dream? If a dream just sits by itself, you don't put action to it, then likely some people define then it's not a goal. And a goal is really a dream you put action behind. Those could be your definitions, but I think that there's definitely that important thing. The other, because I always love playing this yin yang back and forth. You said, define your extraordinary life. And sometimes I think also define your ordinary life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we're just like, oh, I owe debt. I don't have this amazing car. I feel like, I don't really have any friends. Okay, so if we boil it down, then what is it that you're looking for? Are you looking for belonging? And what would it be? Because we always want to look for the thing we don't have, as opposed to the thing that we do have. And sometimes, and this is what can be so impactful about the goal setting, and we'll get to it. I have a whole little framework that's really fun to use. But if we define what the ordinary life is, a lot of times when we then become grateful and look at what we currently have, we will realize, our life is not actually ordinary. You and I speaking now here, anybody who runs their own, if they're a business owner and they're an entrepreneur, your life is not ordinary. The vast majority of people are not entrepreneurs.
So true.
And yet we think that we are ordinary.
And it's the same thing that we think, like, I talk with so many people and I interview people, and sometimes I go interview local business owners, and it's like, I'm afraid that I don't have a story. It goes back to like, what's your ordinary, what's your extraordinary? And they say, well, there's nothing unique about my story. And I said, but there is, and I can prove it to you. I can get you to see that, and it's all intertwined. Like you say, what is your dream? But the biggest thing, and we'll get back to uniqueness, the biggest thing, what you emphasized earlier, you have to take action. Otherwise, it's still going to be a dream, but dream can fuel your goals. So it's even kind of hard to separate for me. There's that fine line there. This episode is brought to you by Unique Marketer. Now imagine your business leading, not following. Meet Unique Marketer. We don't shout or whisper in a way that brings everyone to listen. Unique Marketer changes the game with connection marketing. We turn our audiences into communities, eager for your story. Insightful tools guide us, not just an attitude of sales. Our approach: connect, resonate, transform. If you're interested in learning more, Unique Marketer gives Geni's Way listeners a free digital analysis and strategy goal. Use Listen Up with the link in show notes. Lead with Unique Marketer, where we help your business shine.
And so this is interesting. When I hear people say something like that, where there's a fine line, it means that they're willing to be taking action. So even the fact that we're here and we're recording an episode, this is action that was taken on beliefs and dreams and desires that you've had. And then dreams and goals become almost indistinguishable when you're somebody who is willing to take action. But it's those people that are working the terrible job, or even they've started their own business, but they're doing something that's just, it's not working. They're not feeling it. You ask them what their dreams are, and it has nothing to do with their business. And you go, why are you doing the actions that you're doing? Because as much as we may want to believe it, no matter what we do, it is an action. Sitting and watching TV is an action. Not saying you're not supposed to do that, but then doing something for your business is an action. Doing something for someone else's business is an action. You quite literally can't do nothing. You're always doing something. And whether or not it's contributing to your goals and dreams is a different question.
So true.
Yeah,
let's get back to
the
how
goals?
to goals. Let's talk about your framework. I'm excited to hear that.
So if listeners haven't figured this out yet, I really don't like to BS. I've found the things that are seemingly working, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. But it's probably better than you think, if that's a tiny amount of a sparkle of sugar. So it's a five-step process, and usually by the time you get to step 3 or 4, a lot of times around 4, you will realize that step 1 was wrong, that the way you did step 1 is wrong. And we'll go through it, and you'll see why that is. It's fascinating, and you can use this framework again and again. Big goals, small goals, anything. The first part is, what's the goal? Seemingly simple, but what is the goal or desired outcome?
Then we just started with that clarity of where you want to be, a vision, outcome, desires? What is
Usually
it?
not, because through this process, you will kind of get to that piece.
Interesting.
And you'll see, because a lot of times when you say what's your goal, people will tell you, they go like, oh, I want to make more money in my business. Okay. You don't have to make it super specific. It's better if you make it specific. People have all the SMART goals, measurable. I want to make $100,000 by the end of this year. Great. You could just say more money. You could say 100,000. It's just, if you actually meet it, that's the question. Because if you want to make more money and I give you $1, congratulations, you've made more money. And if that was your goal and it's achieved, you achieved it. Good job. Most of the time, it's something a little bit more. So the measurability simply helps us really easily say, is this actually what you want? I'll give you an example as well, is when people say, I want to build a business and I want it to make $500,000 a year in revenue. Okay, why are you building the business? What's the point of building the business? And as they get into it, they will say things like, oh, well, I want freedom to travel with my family. I want discretionary income to be able to buy things, for my mom. I want to buy her a house or something like that. So I'm like, okay, so you don't want to build a business. You want money to be able to do all those things. It doesn't have to come from a business. So let's figure out what your actual goal really ends up being. So like I said, the first part is, and if you're going, oh no, Stefan, this sounds so convoluted, just start with any goal. You'll see as we go down that you're going to start rewriting your goal pretty quickly. First, what is your goal? The second, why do you want to achieve that goal? Why? And I usually like to say 3 to 5 things. Don't just give me one. So I want to make more money in my business, or we'll go specific. I want to make 100K. Why? All right, because that's going to show that you're successful, because that's going to take care of your living expenses, because it's going to provide security in your mind and in your life that you're able to throw off corporate America, because you're going to be able to sleep soundly at night, because you will have peace of mind. Why do you want to achieve this goal? Why? Those two kind of things are pretty simple. Most people have that down.
Sounds like what and why. That's pretty...
Yeah. Pretty solid. Yeah. The next 2 are the ones that are the big differentiators. So the third part, and this has to do a lot with motivation, because I'm sure a lot of people have written goals, and I've done this myself many times. You get started, it doesn't really work, you give up. And the motivation is lacking. So the third question is really around that motivation piece. And the question is this: why is it going to work? Mm-hmm. Why is this goal? Why is you attempting it? Why is all of this going to work? You know why you want to do it, but why is it actually going to be successful? This is the place where you can put things in like, because I am worthy of it. And if you genuinely believe you're worthy of it, because you have the skills, because there's a demand. If you're running a business, there's a demand out there for people, for that problem to be solved, because you in your heart of hearts believe that you are destined for this. I don't know what your why it is, but the more you can do, the better. 5, 10, 15 reasons. A lot of people stop at just a couple, but you really want to dig in, because this is the section that when you're going, this is never going to work.
Get you out of when you're depressed and things are not working. You'll go back to say, this is my reasons. I'm going to keep going.
Yes. And as you read them, they will encourage you and they will empower you. And so if you only read 3 reasons, that's kind of like plugging your phone in for 3 minutes. It'll charge it, but it's not going to charge it for enough. You're going to have to come right back to it very quickly. So give more and more of those reasons. And if as you keep going with your goal, you want to add other reasons because you get inspired by the little successes, they're not quite at the goal, great, add them in there. Give yourself more and more of a reason to keep going. Because back to your very, very first question of why do people don't do that, I feel a lot of people give up. They may put in the action and then they don't put in enough action. They don't push further and further and further. this brings us to the fourth question. And this, I actually borrow this from someone named Tom Bilyeu, fantastic podcast that he has. But the idea is basically this. No BS, what is it going to take? What will it take for you to achieve this goal? And let's say you put even a time frame on it. If you said 100K in my business by the end of the year, great. What is it going to take? Write down everything. You need to rob a bank. You need to sell a kidney. What is it going to take? There is kind of almost an unspoken second part to that question where then you go through and say, am I willing to do these things? To what degree am I willing to do that? And that's where you decide, is this really the goal? Because if you wrote down, no BS, this is what it's really going to take. And after you wrote down all the things it's truly going to take and you look at it and you go, I'm not willing to do half of these things, you're probably not going to meet your goal. Then you might want to change your goal, adapt it. What else is it actually going to be? So that's where I initially said that questions 3 and 4 really change your goal, is because when you talk about why is it going to work, a lot of times you realize that your motivations are for a bigger goal or a different goal, or there's something else about the goal that you actually care about and why you think it's going to be successful. And then the no BS, what is it going to take? That really puts it into perspective. What are you going to have to do? I'll give you one more quick example. A lot of times people, for the same goal that we have of building the business, I'll just keep going with that one, and they go, I need a market. I'm going to start posting on social media. And they go, I know that it takes, if you research it, for example, I know that it takes for me to post anywhere from 3 to 10 times per day.
Or is it? Where did they get that? See,
and that's the question. Is that true? It may or may not be. If you believe that to be true and you think that's what it's going to take, are you willing to do it? And if you're not willing to do it, is there a different way that you can find? Because potentially there is. Do you want to change your time frame? Maybe you say, no, I love doing social media, but I'm only going to do 3 posts a week. And maybe I'm okay with it taking 2 to 3 years for me to get to the 100K. And to your exact point, I love that you pointed that out. There are many other ways. We don't know what we don't know. And I'm not here trying to tell you that you have to post 3 to 10 times a day to succeed on social media.
I wouldn't say that either.
Yeah. But it's the point of really being honest with yourself of what is it truly going to take. And I love the quote that you can't solve a problem with the mindset that created the problem. You have to go into something external and something more. So most likely, just let's be real and honest here, you're not going to get to your goal by taking the same actions you've been taking to get to where you are now.
Absolutely.
It's going to take different actions. And with this point of actions, we get to step number 5. And step number 5 is, what are your next 3 action steps? Now, it's not going to be all the actions that it will take for you to complete this goal, but it's that little push to get you from just writing a list and looking at it and thinking, oh, this is beautiful. I love writing lists. I'm so inspired, and then do nothing about it. But actually start the ball rolling. Go, do the thing. Start taking the actions. In my mind, only one of those action steps should be a planning step. Because a lot of people will say, oh, well, I'm planning to do this, so I'm going to write out my marketing plan. I'm going to write out my sales strategy, and I'm going to write out my schedule. And then you're going to do nothing because you're going to have all these plans, but you're not going to execute and take action. So one of them can be a planning. I understand some people need to plan, but the other 2 literally need to be actions that you're going to take. Film the video for social media, go talk to 100 people and try to sell them your one thing or whatever it might be. Do the action, because then it's going to really keep you going and get you inspired to keep on taking more and more action, revisit the goal. And as we go through goal, why is it going to work? Why am I doing the goal? Why is it going to work? No BS. What is it going to take? And then what are my action steps? That's the framework.
Yeah, that's awesome. And there's a couple of things I want to piggyback on that. When you take the action, you're going to get feedback. And I know you really big about saying like it's not a failure. You just the sooner you fail, the sooner you're going to get the feedback. And I think you mentioned in one of your talks the kind of a game of saying like, oh, I'm so excited for the failure. I'm gonna get some results. I'm gonna get some data, feedback, whatever you want to call it. So I know how to tweak it and continuously to experiment. Let's say you did talk with 30 people and for some reason it didn't resonate. Maybe you need to tweak just one word on one little strategy. Maybe you need to reach out to coach or consultant, talk with Stefan, talk with me, say, how does it sound? Does it sound, I talk with 30, 40, 50 people, doesn't matter how many, and some reason they don't resonate. Can you help me figure out what it might be wrong with what I'm saying? And there's so much to unpack. With step 3, it's like it's giving you the depths of understanding why you do what you do, and do you really believe it, or is it just like a dream? So we keep going back to the first question: is it a dream, or you truly believe it? When it's gonna get tough, are you gonna be able to get to why is it going to work, and that will keep fuel your energy to keep rolling. And then, like you said, are you willing to do whatever it takes? If you believe that you need to post every day on social media, are you able to do it? That's all great. But let's talk about putting stuff on social media and talk about themselves. Like I said a few minutes ago, a lot of people feel like they can't talk about themselves. They don't have anything interesting to say. There's nothing unique about that. And I know you and I both believe that everyone have that uniqueness. And one of my slogans is uniqueness is your superpower. How do the people discover their uniqueness, and what would they need to do to be open to explore and talk about themselves from a different perspective?
It's a great question. We're gonna pull together everything we've talked about already into this, because there is a point of going, if everybody is extraordinary, this is not to diminish anyone's light or however you want to say it. If everyone's extraordinary, nobody is, right? If everyone's unique, I always love the little saying, you're like a beautiful snowflake, unique, just like everyone else. You're
unique like everybody else.
Right. So
I love it.
There comes a point where we have to kind of go, do I really want to be unique? And what ends up being, what people mean by that, because that's an important thing, is they're saying, for example, I want to be able to stand out from other people that seem similar to me. And a beautiful way to do that is, okay, then be yourself. I did a little group mastermind where we got together financial advisors, because I was interested, how would financial advisors market themselves? They're all doing relatively similar things. How would you differentiate between them? Why would somebody be attracted to this person versus that person? And it really came down to personality. One guy loved talking about the Chiefs, and he was a huge football fan, and it was all over his Facebook and all these other things. Beautiful. So if I needed somebody who was a financial advisor and really liked football, and that was not my rival team, if that mattered, there you go. There's an immediate reason why I would probably want to talk to them. But if I just told you, how many Chiefs fans are there? I don't want to insult the team. I don't really know sports that well. Thousands? Millions? I don't know. Hundreds of thousands probably fans. So what makes him necessarily different? It doesn't from those hundreds of thousands, but it does from the hundreds of millions of other United States population and people there. So there's a combination in this uniqueness that we're talking about. I know I was talking all over the place, with the fact that you need to find something that is unique, which means that it sets you above from the majority of people, but not so unique that it puts you outside of the ability to connect with other people. So his ability to be a fan of a sports team means he's going to connect with other fans, but people who don't care about sports or care about different teams or different sports, they're not going to be a connection. And that's an immediate way that he can be unique in a way and also connect and showcase that to people. This brings me to another sub-point of this idea of, we talked about extraordinary and ordinary. There's nothing wrong with being ordinary. If you're happy being ordinary, that's fine. We get sold this thing of where it's just like, the only way to happiness is being extraordinary. Says who? It seems that all the extraordinary people tend to say that. So wouldn't they be very, very biased into saying that? Whereas for us, if we're saying, no, being ordinary actually is what makes me happy, and that's what really works for me. So for that, I just want to specify it with this idea that if you find what makes you ordinary, if you're saying, hey, I like mac and cheese, I like pumpkin spice lattes, and I work with Primerica. Okay. But the fact that you're able to put that forward means that people will be able to connect with you on that thing. It may seem like nothing. It may seem like the vast majority of people do that. But that also means that so many people will want to connect with you because they're going to feel like you're one of them. So
it's
to that
it's
point.
it's not per se uniqueness. It's like you get to connect people because they like you for who you are. It's more of a, you call it humanity, being able to connect people at a human level. And people buy from people they like and trust. So see, uniqueness is a little different, like Stefan just explained. You talk about you, what you like, what your passions, and people will be able to relate to you. And that's how they will be buying from you, because they like you for who you are. So being you, not trying to be somebody else. I think that was your main point, being you.
Yeah.
And like yourself for who you are. And don't, to me, it's like, oh, I want to be like somebody, I don't know, one of the famous actors or actresses. But why? You have enough about you have that personality that people will attract to you because of who you are. And then not everybody needs to be your client. There are so many people, there are billion people in the world. We don't need to have everybody. So as your client, that brings us to another interesting point. How do you figure out who would be your right clients? Who would be people that you would be selling? How do you even go about figuring out? And of course, if you already had the business, you already figured it out. But especially important would be for people who are starting. How do you figure out who you to work with?
Ooh, okay. I'm really glad you asked it that way, because we now have a differentiation of people that are starting and people that might have been seeing some success and moving through it a little bit. You mentioned something, and this is one of the sayings that I want to get back to, which is going to lead into the audience part, and it's this idea of humanity. A lot of people will hear the advice that you should be authentic. I unfortunately heard Seth Godin, who's huge in the marketing field. He said, I think authenticity is a crock. And I really and I respect his opinion, and it really wounded me, because for the longest time, I built my business around this idea of authenticity. And I went, oh no, how could you, Seth? I have to figure this out. And as I thought about it more and more, I realized that he was absolutely correct. And let me give you the example. It's an example of extremes, I understand, but if that's our guiding principle, it's important to know where we're going. If I get on a call and my true desire is I want to be burritoed up in a soft blanket, eating nachos and watching Netflix, if I am to be authentic, what I should tell you is I don't want to be here. I want to watch Netflix and eat nachos. Why am I here? That's true authenticity then in me saying that to you. We don't really want that when it comes to business. What we do want is humanity. What we're okay with is me saying, I am kind of having a little bit of a rough day. I'd really love to kind of veg out and watch some shows. But this I'm going to be excited for this. I really want to have this conversation because I think this is worthwhile. I think it's important for us to have this conversation. The fact that you admitted vulnerability shows you so much more as a human that people will immediately go, oh, I can connect with that. I also feel sometimes like I just want to veg out and watch Netflix. That's the distinction between authenticity and humanity. And I love that you said humanity. And yes, that's one of the things that I push forward, is because I'm like, yeah, you were just trying to connect to other humans. People buy from people no matter what part of business that you are. But speaking of people buying from people, how do you figure out which people should be buying from you?
Which people should be buying from you? How would you ever figure that out?
So there are a lot of specific questions in there. I think that your personality and humanity matters a lot in there. But if you're just starting out at the very, very first start, I understand that a lot of times I just need to get clients. I don't need to like the clients or dislike the clients. I just need money so I can build up my business, and then I can do that. I want to acknowledge that, because I know it's important, and we can't just throw it all around of just find your niche and love and just align with all of your clients. That's a great idea.
I'm glad you're saying that, because I hear a lot of people say, well, I just need money. I just started. I don't even know who I want to work with. So that at the beginning probably be okay to experiment. You don't even know who you will like working with.
Right. Absolutely.
Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
So the thing that I immediately ask a lot of people is, what is the problem that you solve? because the problem that you solve will then help you dictate who is it that you're actually trying to target. And most of the time, when people say the problem that they solve, and then when they try to identify the audience, they're way too vague. So let's say, for example, I do cybersecurity. And then what I tell people is, and I want to work specifically with women, because this is the whole thing about niching down. People go like, okay, I found my niche. I work with women entrepreneurs that are, I service them with cybersecurity to make sure that they have security in their business and in their families. So seemingly the problem that I solve is the security aspect, which I guess cyber, I don't know, that doesn't speak specifically to any of my problems potentially. And people think that they differentiated themselves by saying it's women entrepreneurs that want security and safety in their business and home. That's basically every single woman entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want safety in their home and their business? What does that even mean? So we use these differentiators that we think are actually different and are showcasing our audience, but what we're really saying in different words, and I find that this is most all people, most all entrepreneurs, anyone and everyone. That's what we're really saying. And some people actually say that. They're like, anyone and everyone who wants to grow their business. And when I listen and I talk to them, I actually had a meeting like this today. When I listen and talk to them, I understand and I get them to say, oh, it's not actually every business. There are specific problems that we're not going to be able to fix because we help smaller businesses. This is the same thing of where people say they have the highest quality item. You don't. You're a small business. You couldn't possibly have the best quality. You don't have the money and the finances for that. So when it comes to figuring out who do you want to work with, what is the problem that you're solving, and then the humanity piece comes in, how can you relate to those people in a way that most other people would not be able to relate, right? Mm-hmm. This is coming back to kind of that idea of being yourself and presenting yourself. So if I am selling, we'll keep on going with the cybersecurity to women entrepreneurs, and I know how scary and tough it is, and you don't have enough time, especially when you have a toddler. So I will work with women that have kids age 1 to 3 that are really struggling with a service-based business that is mostly online, something like e-commerce, maybe, if it's not just service-based isn't e-commerce, but service-based like a coach or they have an e-commerce website. We're now fine-tuning more and more and more to who is the actual person that will work with me. And you can go even further. What are their beliefs? Do they care about sustainability? Or maybe they're a carnivore. They're on the carnivore diet and they want to eat a bunch of those things. Whatever it might be, what are those things that are really going to help you align with them and make sure that their problem is the one that you can solve the very best? So that was a very convoluted way and path, but I think it's the path that everybody sort of needs to take to figure out what's the problem is that I'm solving, and is that really the problem I need to be solving for this specific audience?
Because if you don't know that, you would know how to address them in your marketing strategies, because you have to speak directly to them. It's like, I don't want to call it pain points, but what are their beliefs? What are their values? How can you relate to them? And if they hear a message, would they raise their hand and say, yeah, it's me, and start paying attention? But like you mentioned, if it's every woman that want to be safety and security, it's like, they're just going to scroll by on social media, or even if they see your website, they're like, okay, well, she's not talking to me, or he's not talking to me. Why do I care? They're not talking to me. So those are important distinctions. And it probably also goes back to who you are. Normally, like, I don't want to generalize, normally you have certain beliefs and certain values and even certain interests. So potentially, maybe you can start uncovering those for yourself, so you can figure out, okay, if I like football or I like gymnastic or whatever the case might be, maybe I'll be interested in those people. Or if you like to be certain diet or doing yoga, perhaps can relate to the people that are doing the same thing as I do. I think it's a journey that you have to take yourself on to figure out who do you want to work with, but not more than that. How can you relate to those people that you will be working with? And by figuring out what your values, beliefs, and interests, that should be able to help you kind of start at least and see where is it going to go, and take actions and speak to those people and see how they can relate or not.
Yeah. I love the point about the relating or not. And 2 points that are very, very important to this. When you are figuring out who is the exact audience, niching down as many people call it, you want the vast majority of the questions that you ask of is this person this, is this person this, is this person this, as they check it off to actually be your ideal audience. You want most people to say no to all of those questions, to each question. So, for example, the first one, yes, men versus women. Okay, women. All right, there's a good portion of the population that will say no to that. And if I say it's specifically women 35 to 60, or even smaller, okay, there's now an even larger portion of the population that will say no to that. And you have to keep going. Unfortunately, what people do when they do this is they have this feeling of missing out, and they're going to go, ooh, I won't get the sale from this person, and this person won't realize that I could help them. So they add on more so that it then feels like, oh my goodness, you work with a bunch of different people. I don't really know if I fit into that. I don't know who I know that fits into that. So you lose a lot of people. So with every question, most people should say no. Because then when they do say yes, you go, you're exactly the person that I've been looking for. And the second point is most people don't understand what they're selling. I will use another example. This is somebody who came to one of my masterminds, and she works for a nonprofit, and they help youths, underprivileged youths, work on bikes to help kind of improve. They learn a skill of how to repair bicycles, and it kind of gives back to the community in a great way. And this is how she approaches donors. When she approaches donors, she says, look at these kids. Don't you want to give to these kids? Don't you want to feel better? Well, you're coming to me and you're asking me to give something for that person. What am I getting?
How are they going to make me feel?
Right. In none of her pitch, she ever said how I benefit from this. Because she's like, well, maybe you like bicycles. And I'm like, okay, if I like bicycle, I'll buy myself a bike. So maybe talk to me about the tax write-offs that I can get. Talk to me about maybe I have a past where if somebody was there for me and could help me in my dark past to give me one of these skills, how amazing would that be? And you can have that feeling of giving forth to the generation. But now you're selling me the feeling, right? Not the fact that these kids are getting into that. You're selling me the feeling of that I get from it. And that's what a lot of people miss. They miss what it is that they're selling. And we kind of already talked about it. They miss the problem that they're actually solving for that person. Same thing.
Yeah, they need to see what are they solving, and I'm glad you pointed out, a lot of people are not even sure what they're selling, and then they're gonna look at you and say, I don't know what I'm selling, but you can't identify who you're selling it to, and then once you identified it, what are you actually selling? What are the benefits? How would they know they want it, and how do they know it's for them? Number one. And number two, how would they know they want what you're selling? What if I don't have that problem? I've seen and heard it before. Like you get to hear the pitch from, especially online. They'll say, "Oh, I have a weight loss program. Would you like to take a look at it?" Well, some people truly get offended. What if I don't have a weight problem? Were you assuming that I'm fat?
Right. Yeah, no, very, very, very
it's
valid.
Like that's a good comparison. So you come in and the doctor, he didn't listen to you, didn't take the vital signs, didn't do the lab work, none of that, didn't ask you what symptoms you have. Here's the prescription. How would that work?
Yeah, how willing are you to take that prescription?
How willing are you taking the prescription? You didn't ask you, what's your symptoms? Not to say, like, take your vital signs or did your lab work. None of that. He didn't even ask you what your symptoms. Here's the prescription. Thanks, pay at the door.
Yeah. No, I love that metaphor. It's perfect. And that's the unfortunate thing is that a lot of people just online, they just try to shove it down your throat effectively. They're just like, no, buy this. You need to buy this. You should buy that. Of course you want to buy this. You want your business to grow? Buy this. This sadly goes hand in hand with the idea that they try to sell you things. And I understand that a lot of people that are getting into this, they're going, but nobody takes me seriously. Like I actually do good social media work. But as soon as I tell people I'm a social media marketer, they go, oh, well, okay, I don't need that. Even though they may very well need it. The problem is they've been burned by so many people before, you in no way stood out. There was nothing that you said that made them feel that it was somehow different. And I'm just very quickly going to add on. Go ahead.
It was so interesting that exactly leading me to the question I was going to ask next. How do you establish your credibility? Like what did you do to establish your credibility? What can you do, tell other people to establish credibility so you will not be sending those cold DMs and people just, sometimes they even block you or ignore you, or you have to chase them. Like, so you won't be shoveling down their throat, so to speak, your offer without even figuring out what is it they need and want.
Mm-hmm. I've got, besides all the things that we talked about, because if you're executing on a lot of the things of the goal setting, all those kind of things, two main important things. One, this word gets overused, but I'll define it. What is your brand? My definition of brand is what is the experience of working with you? What does it actually feel? What do the calls with you feel like? What do you stand for? What do you truly stand for? As an example, I despise email marketing. I don't hate the people that do it. I just don't like doing it. I especially hate when I sign up for a discovery call with you for 30 minutes when I haven't ever really met you, and all of a sudden I'm getting 5 emails a week from you, and I'm not even your target client. I'm not at all even in that demographic for you whatsoever. That tells me that your brand is just spammy and disingenuous, right? And that's fine as long as you understand that that is your brand. So what is the experience of working with you? What is the experience when people see you on networking events, on podcasts, on social media, when they have a call with you, whenever you interact with them, what is the experience? That is your brand. I don't care about your colors. I don't care about your logo. Those are just reminders of the feeling, but what is the actual feeling that people get? And then your question of how do you establish credibility? Do things well, repeat. That's it. Do things well, repeat. Now, maybe you do things for much cheaper at a discount. Maybe you do things for free. Maybe you do things as partnerships. That doesn't matter. Do things well. Because if you're actually able to get the results that you say that you get, and you can prove it again and again and again, that's your credibility. I'll give you another quick example of where this falters. I did a TEDx talk. Many people think, oh my goodness, a TEDx speaker. So I basically paid someone who became my coach, and I was able to get on a stage. Granted, I prepared my speech for a long time. It was about a year of preparation for the speech. And for a month and a half before the actual speech, I rehearsed my speech 4 times a day, every single day. My wife only told me afterwards that she was like, I swear, if I had to hear it one more time, I was going to walk out of the house. So bless her that she didn't.
I'm glad you explaining behind the scene, because people think it's so glamorous, and yes, it is, but it's a lot of work. Are you willing to do what it takes? It goes back to what you said. Wasn't that the number 4 in that formula? Are you willing to do what it takes? You heard Stefan just mention example of himself. Just always remember that. Are you willing to do what it takes? Sorry, I interrupted you, but I thought it was so beautifully illustrated by your own example.
I will wrap it up with this effective thing is, yes, I put in all of that work and I did perform, and it paid off. Again, do things well, repeat. It paid off to where the talk itself was great. I had a lot of feedback on how fantastic the talk was. But just because you did that, a lot of people think, and now he has millions of views on YouTube because of this. No. You have to then promote it and do all of these other things. And it's a kind of never ending cycle of a lot of that, where it's not what it really kind of appears to be. Sure, that can give you some credibility. But also during the pandemic, there were people that did TEDx talks that were just over Zoom. That does not at all give you the same credibility of, I did a TEDx talk. It's not always the same. It's the fact that you did it well. And when people see that you did things very well, and it's a higher grade level than all the other things that people see out there, that's when they go, okay, that's credibility right there. So that's my answer.
And I'm interesting that you pointed out, because I, in my last interview, also interviewed somebody that did a TED talk, and her experience was very similar to yours. So that's very interesting. I have another question. Can you share a funny or painful, I'll make it up, leave it up to you, marketing mistakes that you've seen the business owners do and what to do to avoid those mistakes? Funny or painful, however you want to go, take it.
I'm going to go painful, unfortunately.
No, I was hoping for funny.
I know. I as much as I hate to say it, I think the painful one will be a better lesson because
Sure.
I sadly see it so much more. Yes, consistency matters. We hear this a lot of like, just be consistent, just be consistent, just be consistent. If you're consistently putting out trash, that's your brand. Just being clear there. So it's not as if I don't work with men, but the majority of people are women. There's one woman that I'm not going to give away any specific details, but she was doing a lot of videos on social media, and her videos were just terrible. The way she introduced it, I immediately was like, why do I care? Why would I want to watch this? And when I asked her about it, I said, why would somebody care? Why? And she goes like, well, I don't know, because they would want to buy from me. And I'm going, what do you mean? You haven't provided any reason of why I would want to interact. There's nothing that's entertaining about it. There's nothing that's educational about it. You're just selling me again and again and again. And I think that's the biggest mistake, is that people think their value is the fact that people can hire them. And that's when it comes to social media, that's not the value. The value is all the expertise and other things that you can provide for people for quote unquote free, so that they can see, oh, this is why I need to go and hire them. But too many people just run in with the sell, thinking that everybody cares about what your name is, what you do for a living. People think about themselves far more. As my mother always liked to say, don't think about yourself so much. Nobody does. If you want something funny, there you go. There's what a Russian mother constantly says to her son. Everybody there is thinking about themselves. So if your entire video and things that you're doing in the marketing is talking about you and how great you are and why they should hire you, why would they? Why would they listen to you and watch you? You didn't tell them what's in it for them and the value that is for them. So I think that's unfortunately the biggest mistake that I see.
Yeah, and what's the benefits they're going to get? They kind of need to hear that. I think you mentioned in the talks that you have been done before, focus on about benefits. What's in there for them? Mm-hmm. Not the system that you have, 20 modules and 50 videos. They don't care about that. They just want to know what's in there for me. And that's pretty much boils down to. So what would you like to add, and how would you like to summarize our conversation? We've covered so many incredibly important points, or anything else you would like to add that I haven't asked you. I'm going to leave it up to you.
I'm going to make one quick point about what you just said, because I think there's a very interesting question that I want to ask the audience in a way, just for them to answer for themselves. If I was to sell you this module, it's going to get you... whatever your dream is, you're going to get it. Would you like me to send you 100 videos that are all 30 minutes long? Or what if I could give it to you in one 15-minute video? Which one would you prefer? The number of modules, all of that stuff means nothing. The result is the only thing that's important. If you can get the result, great. The rest of the stuff is not nearly as important. And if you can get it in less, good. Too many people think that adding is what makes things more valuable. How about subtracting the things that aren't important? That was actually partially the theme of my TEDx talk, is that we need to not do more good things. We need to do less bad things. And that's kind of what I want to finish off on is, we talked about brand and the experience of what is the experience of working with you and interacting with you. If you can really express that, showcase that across all the ways that you work and that people interact with you, you will have an extraordinary life, because one, there's nobody else like you. Everybody's a unique snowflake, like we said, but there's no one like you. And the vast majority of people aren't willing to showcase it nearly as much. We're worried about getting hurt and we're keeping it inside. But all of us want to connect to those individuals that go, oh my goodness, you're like me. You're unique like me. And I want to be a part of that world and a part of that experience, that brand.
The brand is you. How do you make other people feel?
Yeah.
What kind of experience they're having when they interact with you. And people very much confused what brand is. It's like, it's not a logo, it's not your colors. That's the things that they, it's just there. What really matters is what feelings people have when they interact with you. And the overwhelm of running your, last but not least, the overwhelm of running your business could be pretty tough. But a couple of things that keep you grounded. That's something that I really truly believe that we have to take care of ourselves, and kind of wrap up with that, because taking care of yourself, it's not selfish, it's extremely important. And I want to leave with that you are number one priority for your family, for your community, for your business. Without you, there is no business, because you're the brand. How would you, a couple of quick things that you do that will help, and we'll wrap up with our exciting conversation. Very, very interesting.
Oh, the time flew by.
Yes.
There's this one guy, he's a coach that I met recently. And I
We'll
was
never guess he's a coach.
right. And I was envious in a way, not for long, but I was, let's say,
Not
impressed.
you.
I was impressed and a little envious.
Let's say you're impressed.
of the feeling. There was an ease to the way that he was doing things. He was just generally starting out in business. He wasn't trying to hustle it. It doesn't mean that he wasn't working hard, but he also wasn't trying to be unreasonable with his expectations. He understood it was going to take time for his business to grow and pick up. And every time that I had met with him, there was always this feeling of, I am so excited to see you. I feel at peace and I feel at ease. I know that took a lot of work. The reason I bring that up is because we a lot of times think that there is a very specific way. There's only one way to do it, and most of the time it's adding more and more and more. I kind of mentioned that part. And this brings me to a quote that I had several years ago. Usually every year there's a quote that governs my year. You mentioned one before that I used, which was, let's see how this fails. That was all of last year was, let's see how it fails. I was just excited to have things fail and learn from them. But this quote that I think really helps with this idea of not getting overwhelmed is, the concepts are few, but the methods are many. The concepts are few, but the methods are many. And what it effectively means is there are several main concepts. And everything everyone tries to sell you are all methods of that main concept. So if you're already doing some sort of marketing outreach, you're doing the main concept of people can find you. Yeah. And if you're getting overwhelmed that somebody's telling you, you need to be on social media 10 times a day, that's a method. And you're being sold a method, and you don't always have to buy into that. And with all of that, it's this idea that I love that you said, you can only do so much.
You can only do so much, yeah.
You can only do so much, and it's realizing the final little tip that everybody overuses and overdoes, and I'll go a step further. It's the 80-20 rule. It's the fact that 20% of your inputs give 80% of your outputs, which effectively means that 80% of the time you're not doing things well. So you're feeling overwhelmed, you're doing it to yourself. It's not really anybody else. And I highly recommend go to ChatGPT, go to some AI, type out everything that you're doing and say, hey, help me use the 80-20 method to get rid of the vast majority of this stuff so I don't feel overwhelmed. Get somebody objective, because if you ask your family members, they're going to tell you, oh, you work too much. If you ask your entrepreneur friends, they'll tell you, it's just how it is. Use something objective.
Focus on, prioritize your task and use ChatGPT if you want. Learn to say no. And we're going to, that's kind of what brings back to, like, you have to learn to start to say no, so you can take care of yourself and your family.
Yeah.
Spend time with your family and take care of yourself. Otherwise, you're not going to be happy no matter what. Focus on yourself and your business and start to learn to say no.
And one tiny other thing of that, if you are overwhelmed, if things are too much and you're frazzled, that's your brand. That's how people are experiencing you. Is that what you want? Reconsider.
Oh wow, that was very interesting, and we're gonna close it to that, because whoever you are, that's how people see you, and that is your brand. just remember that. That's very important. Thank you for being here. And that was an enlightening conversation. If people will take just one thing out of this whole conversation, their life will be and their business will be already better. Thank you for your time. Appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Whoa, what an insightful conversation with Dr. Stefan Zavalin. If today's episode has taught us anything, it's that success isn't just about dreaming big. It's about clarity, action, and being intentional with how you position yourself in the market. Whether you're just starting out or have been in the business for years, understanding your niche, identifying the problems you solve, and making sure your brand delivers a consistent and memorable experience is key. Now it's time to take action. What's one thing you learned today that you can start implementing right now? I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments. And of course, if you found this episode valuable, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Until next time, see you!